Welcome to today's podcast interview. I brought on Brian Berneman. Brian, welcome.
Thank you, Heather, so much for having me here. And yeah, looking forward to this conversation.
For those new to you, please give a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
So I am currently in New Zealand. I'm originally from Argentina. And what do? I live life to the fullest extent possible. And on my day-to-day experience to make a living in this world, I support people with their unique journey to conscious living, with their well-being, healing, reconnecting with themselves.
Yeah.
I do that, one-on-one with people. I do that with workshops, events, retreats, as well as with businesses, and I teach at university. So quite a beautiful balance with all of that.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on. Okay, so I'm very familiar with this term, and I would think people who tune into this are, but if anyone isn't, can you please explain what that means, conscious living?
Yes, this is a big thing. I think that a lot of people think something different on this. For me, conscious living is first about being connected with oneself, being connected with what's outside of ourselves, and understanding how things work from different perspectives so that we can understand what actions we need to take that are the ones that are aligned with our deepest yearnings or our values, our beliefs, and what is true for us. Taking into account other people and taking into account the fact that we have an impact in this world, in this universe, both from uh, the impact that we have on other people, but as well on the planet. So what we do, how we do it, that has an impact. So the more that we understand as well that impact, we can live in more harmonious, compassionate way
Yeah.
that is going to be different for everyone because once again, like for me, it's about understanding myself and understanding my values and what I stand for. And when I can align my actions to that, then I'm living consciously.
Yeah. I think other terms, maybe more mainstream, is being mindful, being intentional, getting out of autopilot. So let's talk about the reverse, because something I'd love to learn more about. And I know you're into Buddhism, but for those who are living, quote, unconscious, and I think most of society is in that struggle, suffering, just getting by, woe is me, victim mentality. Can we explain what it means to be unconscious?
Yes, definitely. To be unconscious, I mean, majority of people, as you say, they know this. They don't know that that's what's going on. The you use the word that I love to use, that is the autopilot. Most people are on autopilot. They don't know what they are doing. They don't know why they are doing it. They don't know the motivation behind what they are doing. They
Yeah.
are going fast somewhere. They don't know where they are going.
Yeah.
And they are going to crash and burn most times because they are doing things that they don't in their deepest being, that's not who they are. That's not what they want to do. They are just moving through life, going through whatever society or culture they're in has been laying the path for them to do that.
Yeah.
And, for our Western lifestyle, that means going to school, going to university, working, retiring, and sometime in the middle of that, buying a house, having a partner and kids, like all of that life that for some people that might be exactly what they want and their path. For majority of people, that's not their path.
Yeah.
And as well, majority of people aren't aware of what is going on in their daily life, not only around them, they have no idea what's going on inside of them. They don't understand what are the feelings and the emotions that they are having. They don't understand how to be with that. Therefore, most people are completely disconnected from their bodies. Most people don't understand the thoughts that they have. They are not aware of the types of thoughts, why they are thinking those thoughts. Therefore, there's no way to understand the way that they can create a shift that I often talk with my students at university, that is how we move from being unconscious to conscious, and partly is how do we move from reacting to life to responding to life? Because reacting to life is completely unconscious. That is based on all of our conditioning, all of our patterns of behaviors that we don't know that are there. And when we move to becoming more aware, to becoming more conscious, we can start to choose how we want to respond. Now, the action might be the same, that like from a reaction or from a response, because perhaps the situation requires me to stand firm or to be really soft, depending on what my natural reaction would be. But I am choosing, I am becoming more conscious. So that shift that can happen for me a lot of times dictates whether if we are living unconsciously or consciously, and that can change moment to moment as well.
I think there's so many avenues we can go down. So let me back it up just a second. What you were sharing, that kind of, we've been sold this chase the American dream. And what I shared with you before recording, I chased it. And it turns out that the American dream wasn't my dream. And that's why I was so unfulfilled and going through life's motions. But I took a leap of faith, and I've been in personal development since I was a young teen. I've always been fascinated by it. But I mean, it's really uncomfortable to go against the stream because it's what everybody's doing. But I'm telling you, like, that's where the liberation is. So from that, the idea, like something that I think a frame of mind might be midlife crisis. We've heard of
Mm,
this before. And so with a lot of men, especially in the business world, hitting that midlife crisis, well, turns out I've had clients as young as 40 hitting their midlife crisis because they got real financially successful, but they're miserable mentally, emotionally, relationally, and a lot of it because they were chasing the wrong definition of success. So, and I think that's becoming a lot more well, quote, normal, kind of this idea of people being so asleep and more of us waking up. But a lot of us, which I'd love for you to talk more about, a lot of us wait until the struggle, the suffering, the rock bottom, divorce, bankruptcy, health scare to wake up and create change. But your message is, kind of like Dispenza teaches, why wait? So
yeah,
let's talk
it's
about, for the majority of people, kind of like going through the motions, distracted, numbing out, no clarity, no vision, so unfulfilled. What is possible when they go from unconscious to conscious living?
yeah. I'm going to use my experience to share this. I was so fortunate that I didn't wait until I had to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
I just realized there was more to life. I'm fortunate that I was able to do this as a kid as well. But at that time, I was super stressed out. I was super disconnected. I was super shy. I was struggling to be with others because even though I had friends, I was always an outsider in a lot of different ways. And when I decided to do something about it, to actually not wait until I was going to, as my siblings used to tell me, you're going to explode one day. Just like, that movie Anger Management, that it's like they're bottling up all of this stress. And it's like, no, everything is okay. Everything is okay. Well, I was super disconnected, so I didn't know that everything was not okay. Um, and as I started to do a lot of, like just exploration and exploring different traditions, different techniques, different methodologies that allowed me to reconnect, that allowed me to prevent so much of the hardships in my life. Now, that doesn't mean that everything has been like unchallenging. There's
Yeah.
always challenges, there's always learnings. There's a lot that, I prevented. And this is something that with a lot of people that I have worked through the years, that I keep on telling them, we can see now, as you're saying, that there's more like it has been more normalized the fact that there is this burnt out, there is this midlife crisis, there is this amount of people that are young that are going through very harsh, like physical conditions, like illnesses. There's a lot of that happening more and more and more. So we can see it in others. So why wait until we have to experience that?
Yeah.
Why would I wait? And this is something that I always ask everyone when I'm giving a talk or when I'm working, before I start working with someone. Why would you wait until you have, like stage 4 cancer to do something about that anger or that frustration or that trauma, whatever that is, or that blockage that you have been holding on to unconsciously? So for majority of people, this is completely unconscious that they are holding on to this, the beliefs that they are holding. And I always tell them, you know, if you can see it in others, why would you think that if you live the same lifetime or very similar lifetime and you are not taking responsibility to feel your feelings, to process experiences, to know your beliefs, if you're not doing anything, why would you think that that's not going to happen to you? So it's not about saying that it's going to happen to you and and you should do something about it and you should do it in my way. No, it's everyone, as you were saying, before. The American dream is for some people in that way, and it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
We're all different and we all need slightly different things, and we all are going to need something that is going to wake us up. And we a lot of times need to have, I think, that more honest conversations so that we can realize the truth of what is going to happen if we live a certain lifestyle that is not conducive to being well, that is not conducive to being well mentally, that is not conducive to being well physically, in relationships. When we understand that and we can have honest conversations about that, then it is easier for people to have that, glimpse of realization that, oh, I don't want to wait until that happens to me, until I need to be laying down in the hospital for weeks, or until, like I lose all of my money, or I lose my house, or whatever it is that is going to happen to someone. Because the universe, or more than the universe, let's talk about our body. Our body is always, knocking on the door, but it's softly doing that until, if I don't pay attention, I don't open the door, one day it's just going to knock that door down and it's going to be like, well, you didn't listen. Now you're going to listen. And for some people, they are not going to listen because that means they are gone from here. So when we understand as well that, we don't know when this life is going to end, why would I waste my time doing what I don't want to be doing here?
Yeah.
Why would I not want to live well? Yes, we can live long, but long, like being able to live to 100 years and having the, like last 50 unable to actually enjoy my life, is that life that I want to live? And for some people, that might be a yes. I'm not saying that not. That's not for me. So when we understand that there's life is precious, we don't know when it's going to end, that also it's like a wake-up call. And actually, for a lot of people, that wake-up call is when someone in their life dies, and then suddenly they understand, like, oh, like this can actually happen. So
Yeah.
again, like when we're able to bring that honesty of all of the possibilities of what can happen when we are not living a, let's call it, healthy lifestyle, then we can actually wake up.
I think of it as like an urgency, and I think I even try to emphasize that. I did a live stream today, and it's, you have this one life to live. Now, I know we're eternal beings, but right now in this avatar, me as Heather Hakes, this is my one shot. And as an example, I was talking to my gym buddy yesterday. He's 67 years old, kind of like going through the motions, retired, bored, same shit, different day. And I said, what if you have 20 more years to live? What are you going to do with yourself? And I think that is like, how can we inspire and excite individuals that whether you have a day or 50 years, because we don't know, start becoming a conscious creator of your reality. Be mindful and intentional, be self-aware. Um, like get back in the driver's seat of your life. So here's what I'd love for you to share some ideas and tactics and strategies to get from, I think what Dispenza teaches is we're either in survival mode or we're thriving. And when you're
Yeah.
living in survival, stress, anxiety, depression, unconscious, it's not a time to create change, wealth, relationships, health, but that we can go from surviving to thriving. But Brian, how do we do that?
Yes. So, I'm just going to share, as I said, we're all slightly different. We will all need something slightly different. For me, there's some universal truth with this. And the first one is stop. Stop for a moment.
Yeah.
Pray, like just press that pause button, and whether that is for 20 seconds, 1 minute, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter the length. Make sure that you actually stop. In If needed, I teach a lot on meditation and mindfulness. That is not even necessary if one doesn't connect with those words. It's about being present,
Yeah.
connecting in the present moment
Yeah.
with yourself. And how do we do that? Partly we stop and we find stillness
Mm.
for a moment at least. Stillness of body, stillness of mind, at least momentarily, so that then we can notice. And this noticing comes from a place of non-judgment. This is a noticing just as a witness, so that we can notice, like, oh wow, like there's all of these thoughts happening, not to try to change them immediately, just to notice there's all of these thoughts happening. There's all of these feelings, all of this energy in my body. Because as we are super disconnected and we are not conscious of what's going on, when we stop, when we are still, and when we notice, we can actually start to befriend our experience. And when we find this non-judgmental, compassionate way of being with ourselves, that is what slowly starts to massage our experience and the rigidity of our experience, so that then we realize that we have actually the power to choose whether we want to keep that going or if we want to change.
Yeah.
So again, stopping, stillness, noticing, not judgmental, so that we are able to realize the power that we have to change. I think that those for me are universal for everyone, because from that, then we realize that, okay, my body, I'm feeling these things. This doesn't feel that, like good. This feels icky. Okay, what's there? I'm going to actually explore and become curious and investigate what's there. Then, yes, I can learn different tools, different techniques to be able to actually do that. But we, in a sense, don't need it. We all have the capacity to do that for ourselves. The
Yeah.
same with our mind. When we realize what actually is going on there, why am I thinking what I'm thinking? Am I my thoughts? Are the thoughts me? Like I love I don't know if you read The Untethered Soul from Michael Singer. In that book he talks about the inner roommate, and he talks about that in the sense that, we live with this roommate or these roommates in our head
Yeah.
every single day, all of the time. They are not moving out. We cannot move out. So we need to figure out,
Yeah.
how do we develop a relationship with them? And most people have no idea about their thoughts. They don't know where their thoughts are coming from. And they actually identify a lot with their thoughts. So, as an example, I remember I lived for a few years in the middle of a mountain in a Tibetan Buddhist retreat center. And one of the practices that we were doing was every time that a thought came up, especially if it was a judgment, is saying, who says that? Where is this coming from? And it wasn't about getting an answer. It was about questioning what I was previously identifying as, this is the truth, like this person looks like that, or oh, that is bad, or whatever judgment I was making based on my conditioning. Suddenly, I can create some space before I respond. And little by little, then, that changed. And and from a neuroscience perspective as well, that this is my background in my, like in my studies, we know that our neurons and the pathways that are there are not fixed. They are firing all of the time unless I actively do something to change that.
Yeah.
And the capacity that we have, because, like there is what is called neuroplasticity, there is the capacity to change. We are plastic, but we need to do something in terms of creating the new pathway. So if I'm always used to doing something or thinking something the same way, that is kind of like, as I often say, like that's the avenue or the highway that I'm always traveling through. And I'm doing that unconsciously. There's no knowing. Like, this is why some people sometimes they get on the car, go home, and they're like, how did I get here? Like, I have no idea because
Yeah.
it's automatic,
Yeah.
completely unconscious.
Yep.
When we are able to do something and to realize, oh, there's another street there. And if I go to that street, then suddenly I need to pay attention. I need to be present because I don't know that pathway. Suddenly, this neuron that was firing, that was getting fat, the electricity that is trying to find that fat, then suddenly I'm feeding the other one, and then the electricity can actually go there. So we have that capacity for change, and we just need to actually spend the time doing that, developing a better relationship with ourselves or
Yep.
developing a relationship with ourselves.
Okay, so I want to highlight what you're sharing is really powerful. Now, I'm fully immersed and have these conversations all the time. But for somebody maybe newer to this might be like over their head. So I want to break it down a little bit. And so let's start at like self-awareness, I truly believe is the first step, like you're sharing. Like we have to become um Byron Katie's work is all about self-inquiry, just asking questions. But I'll just share from my perspective, my experience when I went from where I had been living. Mach 90, high stress, go, go, go. That's all I knew because we actually be create chemical addictions to stress. We're addicted to stress, and stress is the number one cause for illness. So let's just, I mean, everybody's stressed out. Hey, like that's where to start. But I'll just share. When I went from Mach 90 stressed out, go, go, go to sitting still was very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I had to like sit, Dispenza calls it sitting through the fire of discomfort. One of my clients said he felt like he was crawling out of his skin. But I would like to offer individuals, if you're going from Mach 90 to sitting still, of course it's going to be uncomfortable because it's different. But it's in this space. I believe what you're sharing in this space is that's where the liberation and the freedom and everything we seek can be found.
Yes. And, one of the things with that, as you're saying, and this is why we're all different. I personally, I needed, before I sat down into that stillness, because of the amount of stress that I was in, I needed to do conscious movement practices
Mm,
because I couldn't sit still. I wasn't ready for that complete stillness. I was doing practices like this is, a practice that it's usually called in the West Tibetan yoga. That was my introduction to this. It's a practice that allowed me to become more aware of my body, become more present because I am trying to be present and moving. Therefore, I'm not just in that stillness that is that super uncomfortable space if we don't know how to be with it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it was actually moving certain energetic pathways so that I could notice more and I could release some of that tightness that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
So that, as you're saying, that can be a very necessary step. Saying that, and this is one of the things that I often say to a lot of people when they are just starting, is there's a difference between not being ready to sit still and incorporating conscious movement than using movement as a way of escaping the experience.
Mm.
So I don't want to use movement as, like I cannot be with my experience, so therefore I'm moving and I'm not actually paying attention. No, no, no.
Yeah.
This is about it's a type of meditation, meditation in movement
Yeah.
that allows us to, if we are not ready to sit still and to go through, as you're saying, that fire, then okay, little by little,
Yeah.
softening
Yeah.
with that movement. But it's the same idea because we still need to, as we are doing that, be present, be conscious of what's going on, paying attention, and paying attention in a way that is non-judgmental.
You know what's coming to mind? Thank you for bringing that up because you're right. You don't just have to sit in this yoga pose with your fingers like this to create this mind-body connection. So things that are coming to mind that I've experienced, and there's plenty of pathways, you are right, for all of us. But yoga is a phenomenal one, that mind body, you're moving with the breath. For some people, more creatives, it might be painting or cooking because it creates presence. For others, I'm also very drawn to nature, hiking in the mountains. Why are we drawn to the beach and the mountains? Because it's stillness, it's calm, there's no chaos. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's been running for me, being so present, and that's when I get the downloads and ahas. So you're right. We will be like, we will feel the pull to however we need to be guided, right?
Yeah, and with that, I was sharing some time ago with one of my clients. I love basketball. Like I used to play when I was younger. And for me, what a lot of times in sports they talk about being in the zone,
Mm,
that that is that presence, that is that
yeah,
stillness, that is the same thing. So yes, there are specific practices like we're sharing some yoga, some, like qigong or tai chi or whichever form of conscious movement we can use. We can use, as you're saying, running. We can use basketball. We can use whatever sport we want. If we are doing it from a place of presence and
yeah,
paying attention and complete immersion in the present moment,
yeah,
that is when we start to expand time or our experience of time.
yeah,
And that's why, like we can see sometimes some of the like greatest athletes in the world, and there's just 2 seconds on the clock, and they have enough time to actually grab the ball, turn around, and shoot. And it's like that's only 2 seconds. No, 2 seconds can be a lot if you are actually present.
yeah. So here's what I want to do. I want to take this conversation because there's so many avenues we could go down, but this idea of conscious living, and I love the term being a co-creator of your reality. So I want to hear from your perspective, maybe even daily practices or rituals you do. But if we are, Brian, if we are the creators of our reality and we can go from survival to thriving, we can go from sickness to wholeness, we can go from stressed out to balanced and harmonious. What is possible when we are consciously creating our reality? What can we experience?
Well, what we can experience, we don't even know. We cannot even fathom what we can experience because a mind or a being that is in a box doesn't know what's outside the box.
Mm,
Now, we can get glimpses of that. We can actually get inspiration from others. We can actually see someone that is like, ah, that person seems really relaxed, even in the chaos of, like of whatever it is that they are in. And I'm going to actually be curious and ask this person, what are you doing to
Yeah.
be relaxed as this is happening? So we can get inspirations from others. We can get a glimpse, some moment when we feel creative, when we feel inspired, where we feel like life has meaning, when we feel love, when we feel compassion, when we feel this energy that sometimes it's hard to describe, that is life-giving. When we can tap into that, we can realize the power that we have. And now, one of the things that you're saying, we can move from where we are to all of these places, as I know in my experience firsthand, and I know with hundreds and hundreds of people that I have worked with, that this is possible. The thing is understanding that when we understand that we are co-creators, we need to understand that this is partly with the conscious mind and also with the unconscious mind. So unless I do the work of healing, that's a return to wholeness, that I do the work of unlearning all of the programs and beliefs that I have,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on projecting and magnetizing
Yeah.
things from that place that I don't even know that I'm doing that. And this is where a lot of times for those that like have heard of the secret, or like you just put affirmations out. Well, if I'm putting affirmations out with the underlying belief, and this is completely unconscious,
Yeah.
that that is not true,
Yeah.
that I don't have that.
Yeah.
Like I can say, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire 100,000 times. If I inside don't believe that because of my conditioning,
Yeah.
then the energy that is going to be projected out is coming from, I am not that, I am not that. And that's what I'm going to attract. Therefore, it's so important as we understand that we are powerful because we are co-creating,
Mm.
that we are co-creating from a place that actually we are not aware of. So when we are aware of that, then we can embark on a journey of self-discovery and healing so that we move completely from those places. Now, we can do that by ourselves, or we can, in a sense, fast track it and work with people that can support us in that. Because one of the things that I have realized a long time ago is that we are able to see much more in other people what is actually their shadows, what's, like the things that they need to work on than on ourselves. So when we find mentors, teachers, like practitioners, whatever it is that we want to work with, that they can support us in our own healing, in our own journey to go to those places, then it is so much easier. Because again, like if for whatever reason, it doesn't matter what's the reason. I have an underlying belief, which most of society has this, that there is separation, that there is scarcity,
Yeah.
that there is, like that we need to live in alert because of fear, then we are living from that frequency, from that vibration all of the time. So unless we actually start to manage that and then liberate ourselves from that and move towards an understanding that there is so much beauty in the world, there is abundance, there is love, there is compassion, we are all one, then we can actually make experientially that shift and that change. It's not just a lot of times in the mind. This needs to
Yeah.
be a full body, a full being experience to be able to make that shift. And I know this, like I work a lot of times with people with past trauma or even generational trauma. We don't know that we are carrying those things. And they are in our body, they are embedded in there, And we need to understand, okay, I want to go there and I want to be a co-creator in a way that I know that it's going to be supportive both for me and for others.
Okay, so what you have touched on, again, if this is new to some people, is the idea of, okay, so quantum physics, this is why I love science, because science can bring kind of this mystical, ethereal stuff to make it tangible form. So quantum physics teaches us that 99.99% is empty space. So that although from our human perspective, everything looks solid and quote real, we are seeing less than 1% reality.
Mhm.
So let's start there. We're seeing less than 1% reality. Now, you touched on without saying it, but that's the lens I understand. Now we're talking about our subconscious programming, which creates our beliefs, our habits, our patterns. That's 95% of who we are. And as Dr. Bruce Lipton teaches, our subconscious programming is what we've taken on from others, our parents, our community, our culture. And then we get to this point that we're unhappy and dissatisfied in life because we have conscious desires, 5% of our mind, abundance, love, whatever. So we have these desires going against 95% of who we are. And so what you touched on through neuroplasticity, so that's the science stuff, self-awareness, we can, what I call, think of your mind as a mental garden. We can pull the weeds and plant new seeds because we reap what we sow. So
Mhm.
I tried to like boil everything you shared because it is deep and truth what you're sharing, but as a more high level, tangible form. So even from that understanding, oh, we're co-creators, that if I currently have blocks, financial blocks, relational blocks, health blocks, oh, I take responsibility. I created those or took on other people's beliefs and I have the power to change them, right?
Yes, definitely. And I love as you're saying that we have all of these blocks that we don't know that they are there, and we can actually do something about it. This is for me
Yeah.
the one of the most powerful things is that we all have the capacity and the power to change.
Yes.
We like it doesn't matter where we are in our life, in our beliefs, we can all in this moment choose differently. We can all decide to do something about this. Now, for some of us, this might be like this, and for some of us, this might be a lifelong journey of realizing how to do this. And
Yeah.
it's not about the speed, it's about what works for each of us.
Yeah.
So important to understand that, as you're saying, if we are co-creators, we have an immense power and we can actually do something with that. When we understand as well that we have all, as you're saying, all of that conditioning and all of that programming, then we need to understand that. And this is one of the things that I have learned a long time ago and that I share with a lot of people. I don't want to get rid of that. What I want to do is I want to acknowledge that it's there. I want to see it and I want to be grateful for it because it worked up until this moment.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to write on the software a new code that is going to be the new way that I'm going to live in this life.
Hmm.
And that code is consciously imprinted there so that then I can live from that place. And what I meant with that is that for me, there's a difference between trying to get rid of the things that are not working and understanding that they were there for a reason. And I'm grateful for that because I survived up until this moment because
Yeah.
of them. I can love them, I can embrace them, I can be grateful for them, and I can choose differently. This comes a lot when I discovered what it's called systemic family constellations. This was a key in my own path to realize that anything that I was averse to and everything that I was trying to push away and I wasn't fully processing, that was coming back and was coming back worse. So
Yeah.
when I'm able to actually embrace all of my parts, and integrate all of that, then I can actually choose how I want to be.
You know what came to mind by you sharing that, and thank you for sharing that, to acknowledge and to accept and actually to be grateful. So another angle that we're talking about is more or less like a paradigm shift, changing our perspective and our worldview to maybe even just think bigger. And so here's an example, something that on my journey, and I think I'm still, quote, overcoming or trying to get out of that paradigm. I come from a very old school family. My dad worked, my mom stayed at home. My dad retired with a pension. Like that's just not what we have today. So my upbringing was very much, I went to college, I got a job. And so my dad believes, and there's nothing wrong with this belief, it's just not my belief. But my dad believes you find a good job with a company with great pay and benefits and retire, like creating that stability. Except there's no stability in employment anymore. And for me, my soul's calling, which I've had to follow instead of that conditioning and programming, is I'm a creative and I want to share this knowledge and this is what brings me joy and lights me up. So thank you, Dad. And you're right, like acknowledge it and thank it and the lifestyle it provided me growing up. But as you said earlier that I circled, we have the power to choose, and I'm simply choosing a different trajectory for my life.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of courage. I always say this to anyone
Yeah.
that embarks on a journey of self-discovery, of
Yeah.
growth, or whatever we want to call it. It takes a lot of courage.
Mm.
Why? Because of what you just mentioned. We are living with other people that are telling us that this path is the path, that this is the truth. And we realize that that's not true for us. That doesn't mean that they are wrong. That just means that we are not resonating with the same thing as they did.
Yeah.
Perhaps they don't even resonate with that, they just didn't know it. But this isn't about judging them. I am what you're saying. It's about being grateful to what they are saying and understanding that who am I going to listen to? Am I going to listen to me or am I going to listen to others? Am I going to live my life through others or am I going to live my life through what I feel
Yeah.
in my heart, in my whole being,
Yeah.
that is how I want to live at this moment, because that's also going to change as
Yeah.
I keep on evolving, as
Yeah.
I keep on like becoming a new version of myself, that's going to change. Staying in that place, as you're saying, of a shift of paradigm that isn't about judging others, it's about understanding that others have their own truth, their own pathway, but for majority of people, and this has been my experience with most of the people that I work with, they care so much about what other people say or might say that they don't do what they want to do. They
Yeah.
live their life through what they believe that
Yeah.
others are thinking. And
Yeah.
I remember once I this was when I came to New Zealand and I was sharing one of my first like group classes here, and it was a conscious movement class. And I started to see that everybody was kind of like looking to the sides, and I basically stopped the class and I asked people like, why are you looking to the side? Like you're supposed to be noticing your experience. Like
Yeah.
who cares about what the others like think? And I was actually saying, like you're just like I looked at one person and I told her, you're looking to the sides, she's looking to you. Like both of you are thinking that the other person is judging you, whereas no one is thinking about other people. Most people are thinking about the fact that other people are judging them. So
Yeah.
we have this distorted idea that everyone is thinking about us and judging us. And that might be true. Some people might be doing that. But who cares in a sense? How can we move from a I'm living my life because of what other people might think of me into a I'm living my life and people can think whatever they want to think of me. And hopefully it's nice, but I'm not in control of what they are going to think.
Yeah.
Can I actually live the life that I want to live?
Authentic living. Powerful statement and couldn't agree more. Here's what I want to ask you because we're getting short on time and I still I could talk to you forever. But I would love to know what are some of your daily rituals that you practice to stay in this conscious living space?
Yes. I want to say this. It I've been doing this for a long, long time. So what works for me again is not going to work for everyone. I wake up. I don't use alarm clocks. I wake up. As soon as I wake up, I actually do some mantras in my head. As a mantra, I mean like I just repeat an affirmations connected to love, health, and abundance. Um, then as soon as I get out of bed, I do some movement practices. Then I sit for a while and then I go and I do my, routine in the bathroom, brush my teeth consciously. Then I go get some water and I start my day with whatever it is that needs to bring. Every day is different. I walk a lot to places as well, so that allows me to be moving and to be present. Um, and one of the biggest things is that I have learned a long time ago to make every single thing that I'm doing my practice.
Mm,
So it doesn't matter if I'm actually like now talking to you, or if I'm working in front of the computer, or if I'm seeing a client, I am present in that moment. That is my meditation practice.
wow.
Saying that, I have a structure in my day because I realized that I thrive in a structure, in a very loose structure with a structure. So my when I eat and when I drink water is key to my day so that I know at certain moments I am doing that. And that helps me have a structure that most of the time I thrive in. And when I notice that I'm going to start doing that unconsciously, I switch it up.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right, because there's no one way to do this, but that's why I love offering other people's ways so you can find your own. Here's what I'd love to do to wrap up the interview. I want to know what is your belief, like a key takeaway you want listeners to get from today's conversation?
Yeah, as there's so many things, and we have talked about this, one of the most important things that I would love for everyone to know is that you are powerful. You are powerful. This is key because most of us don't believe that that's the case.
Yeah.
So unless someone tells us that we have the power to change, we have the power to take responsibility, we have the power to choose differently, and we have the power to live a life that is alive, that is thriving, that is aligned to who we are, and that is greater beyond our wildest beliefs.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I have a few rapid fire questions to wrap up the interview. What is a quote or motto that you live by?
Ooh, work can be an arena for your personal development.
What was that?
Work can be an arena for your personal development.
Work can be an arena. Ah, okay. That's a new one. I like that. What is a book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
The last one that I was just reading, it's called The Golden Book. I love it. It's by Saint Germain. It's a book that for some people might be too esoteric, but I loved it. And if not, one of my favorite all-time books, it's called Gesture of Balance. That it's all about introducing Buddhist teachings for our modern life.
Mm, nice. Final question. What advice would you give your younger self?
You are doing great, you are loved, and keep on going because you become me.
I love that. And such a great note to end on. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Heather. Lovely to chat. Thank you for the questions as well. It always makes me, like think of different things, and thank you for doing the work that you're doing.